Hey guys, I'm your host, Sarah Thomas, and I'm so excited you tuned into Fake Girl Talk Radio today. I feel like I have to say this now every time, but if you're listening on a podcast platform, thank you for tuning in. But hop over to YouTube and catch the actual video of me and our special guest today, so you can see her pretty face and all of that fun stuff. So anyways, thank you guys for listening and tuning in. I'm always blown away at how many new listeners we have every week. Like now my podcast platform that I use shows me when I have new listeners or something. Kayla.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Sorry, my phone just did something. That was me.
You're totally fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I get to know now when new people are tuning in. You guys know I'm not very good at all this podcast video stuff. But it's really cool. We have so many new people tuning in every week, and that makes me super excited. So if you're new here, welcome. Without further ado, we have on Kayla Krauss today, and I just looked back. I had Kayla on a little over a year ago. Last November, I had her on, and we were talking all things IBS. So if you guys want to hear Kayla's full story of how she got to where she is now, how she got into competing, why she lives in Florida, everything about Kayla, we really dove into it all a year ago. So go find that episode on wherever you listen to podcasts and check
Crazy,
it
a year ago.
I know.
Right.
And you guys, Kayla has gone through so much since this past year. We all have gone through a lot this year, but Kayla has her body has gone through so much. So Kayla, hi, welcome. How are
Hi.
you? What's new?
So much stuff is new. Yeah, I've gone through a lot since we've talked. I mean, I think the last time we talked, we were I was doing macros and learning about IBS and really learning about my body, which led into everything we're going to talk about today.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
Kayla, give us a super brief rundown on who you are and what you do.
Well, my name's Kayla Krauss, which is kind of new to me. I've only been married for 2 years, but I am a real estate agent here in Jacksonville, Florida. I also compete in the bikini division. I've been doing that for since 2017. And I didn't compete this year. We'll get into that one, but and then I played collegiate volleyball, which that's what started that. And yeah, that's about it. I just basically hang out, cat mom.
Yes, yes. So I love if you guys don't already follow Kayla, go give her a follow. I'll tag all of her stuff in the descriptions of everything. You guys know that. But her account's really good because she's just like a supernatural, real life woman. Like she works out every day. She doesn't want to. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. She's got jobs. She's just like a real person. And she's a bikini competitor. So this year, although she didn't go through any competition prep, she went through a lot of other things with her body. And I think I just saw something today or yesterday about how you're going to start cutting again in prep for a prep. So
Yes.
why don't you start back with your first surgery you went through this year or last
So
year?
last year on November 22nd or 23rd, I had my boobs done. I went, so what I told, once I cut down super lean, the leanest I've ever been, I saw my chest. I was like, oh, nah, this is not what I want. So I just wanted to fill out my shirt. So I just went as natural as possible. But I still did under the muscle. It's called gummy bear, which is the whole concept. It's silicone. And if you poke a hole in it, it's like poking a hole in a gummy bear. Right. So I went through that surgery first, thinking that I was like, okay, so I'm just going to go through Christmas and I'm going to relax that whole time and recover from that surgery. And so I started recovering from that surgery as well. So that was the first surgery I had in November. And then obviously I started doing and I had a new coach, and my new coach was really trying to push my calories at the same time, trying to make gains during COVID when that hit, because you start your prep. But I was in January, I was like, okay, I'll start really pushing in January once I recover from the surgery. I think we all dealt with this. It's how do we maintain lean body mass and, stay on track when we're just at home, at home workouts? It's so hard. So I was dealing with all of that. And then I think around and that time I decided I was going to cut for a show in spring, but all the shows were are they going to happen? I think we all went through that. If you compete, it's like one of the situations, is it worth cutting, and you know me, I'm very honest about things. The one thing about cutting for a show, not knowing what COVID was, right? Because
Yeah.
what is cutting? I mean, when you get that lean, you're already immune deficient. Like your
You
immune
were
system's terrible.
you were like super upfront and realistic about everything from the very beginning. Like I remember watching some of your stories and stuff. Like you were straight up early on like, you guys, this is not going to be good. Shows are not going to happen. If you think that you're ready to start a prep, you should probably, like, you were saying that stuff early. I remember like
I'm bold.
you
I was
were,
like,
and I was like, oh my God, like I'm kind of scared, but you were so right.
well, people
And
kept saying like they were like, oh, next month, and I'm like, oh yeah, in 30 days it's gonna poof, go away. Nah.
yeah,
It's-
and you were also realistic because you were like, I don't want to start cutting if I don't know what I'm cutting for, because you know how it can be very hard and unhealthy on your body to maintain that low of a body fat and to push yourself through all that for what? Like, I know some people start prepping and they're like, I don't have a specific show date in mind. And I totally respect that and I get that, but they've got a general feel for what season they're going to be competing in, right? Like,
Mhm.
they've got a kind of idea. It's not like they're starting in January, like, I don't know if I'm going to compete this year, because that's just not how it works. And you can't what's your
I mean,
plan?
I think that people think they can maintain that lean, and I think that always gets people in trouble. They don't realize with metabolic adaptation, like your body doesn't. If you're not, reversing a little bit out of these cuts, you're
Yeah.
hurting yourself, and
Yeah.
you're gonna overall hurt your metabolism. So that's where I was like, guys, I was probably at my heaviest after my surgery, and then going through COVID, I was probably up to probably 160, and my stage weight is 118, 120.
Wow.
So
I
I
didn't know
was,
that.
it carries all over the place, and I
I did
try to,
not realize that. Yeah.
yeah. So I try to be as upfront about it as possible, like
Yeah.
show my body. I have my insecurities as well. So I was like trying to be as honest about that too. But it's one of those things. It's like, guys, I could cut into a show, but will it be safe? Like not knowing. My biggest thing was not knowing all of what COVID is, and knowing that getting stage lean and the common cold can take you down. Like,
Literally, that's true.
it's like you're already on the verge of getting really, really sick when you're in that much of a deficit. I was like, I don't know what COVID is. It's hurting people. Like, I don't want to take away the one thing that's protecting me, which is my immune system and all this lovely weight. That was super comfortable. Let me tell you.
Well, so watching you go through your boob job and then recovering from that, I felt like that was pretty successful. You had the normal aches and pains. And I feel like you kind of bounced back from that in a healthy, realistic manner, watching what you showed from that.
Oh yeah. So the biggest thing about that, I wanted to show that, like, hey, yeah, I gained weight. Hey,
Yeah.
guess what? I lost weight. Like I am sitting at like 135 right now. Like I've lost weight, I've gained weight. You got to let your body do what it's going to do, because you have to remember surgery is trauma. As much as you don't think it is, it's trauma to your body. You've literally disrupted everything that's inside of you. So it's like you just got to let your body do what it's going to do, and stay as controlled and consistent as possible. But at the end of the day, you have only so much control about it.
Yeah.
But the boob job is what we're actually one of the things that we're talking about today was my neck surgery. Do you want to
Yes.
go ahead and go into that?
Yeah. So first of all, touch very briefly on your history with IBS.
Okay, so I've had IBS since I can remember my whole life. I remember my mom told me I couldn't handle her breast milk, so she had to start, bottle feeding me because I would get sick off her breast milk, kind of thing. But it just kept getting worse and worse, and it actually got worse once I started my cycle at like 13, and it just kept getting worse until 2017, when I realized that everything bodybuilding food is terrible on. It's all high FODMAP. It's everything that's going to hurt my stomach. So I had to do macro. So I started listening to my body more, cutting out high FODMAP foods. Which, if you want to know about that, guys, it's on my page. I have a post about it, and it's on the previous one we had. So once I started cutting all those out, I can control it a lot more. But I was like, man, I've never met anybody else that has this severe of IBS, like where like I smell garlic and I gained 5 pounds because of an IBS reaction. It's like, that's not normal,
Right. And around
you
your
know,
cycle, it gets really bad.
so bad. Like I'll spike around my cycle. I would spike anywhere between 5 to 12 pounds.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And my coaches didn't like my coach didn't understand. He was like, Kayla. And I was like, yeah, it's to me, I was like, yeah, it's normal. Because at the end of the day, the medical field has made me feel that it was part of being a woman, discredited what I was saying, and made me feel like it was normal. And so I stopped telling my gynos. I moved around a lot. So I had gynos all over the place. And after I moved away, I just stopped telling them that my bloating was so bad, my pain was so bad. Guys, when I tell you my pain was so bad, I would break out in full body sweats till my clothes were soaked. I couldn't breathe. I like would be, throwing up. I would be down for the count for like 3 days. It happened in front of my friend Audrey one time. We were sitting there having a conversation, all of a sudden it hit, and she was like, "Are you okay?" She said all the like blood went out of my face and it hit. And I was like, "Oh, it's okay, it's just cramps." And she was like, "Is it though?"
Right.
So that was my normal, was gaining that much weight. And I normalized it in my own brain because everybody else did, discredit it. And I posted about it all the time to try to, relate to people, saying that, like, guys, cramping happens, bloating happens, it's normal. And then my friend Rachel was like, Kayla, have you ever heard of endometriosis? Like, have you ever told your gyno? Because like it's not normal. Like, yes, some bloating, like 3 to 5 pounds, is normal, but like that's not normal. And I was like, oh no, I blow everybody else. Like, nah, we're fine.
So
And-
I'm gonna cut in right here and say for
okay.
people listening that endometriosis is a word that I've seen for years. But I've never taken the time to fully understand it, research it, or really know much about it. So I'm excited to have Kayla on today to talk about it because the more I've been following her story, the more common I realize it is. And it seems like something that there's not a ton of talk about. So, anyways, continue on.
So endometriosis is something I never heard about. Like, no one, no gyno, no doctor ever even brought it up. I had really severe cramps from the get go. And, they tried to push birth control on me. And my mom didn't want me to be on that in high school. So I wasn't. And then I finally got on birth control towards the end of my senior year. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It made me feel weird. It made me feel like I couldn't rationalize my own moods. So I took myself off of it in 2009, and I have not been on it since. So ever since then, doctors, anytime I even tried to tell them about my pain or my struggles, they'd be like, oh, well, you need to get on birth control. You need to pump hormones in you. And I'm like, no one mentioned endometriosis to me until my boob job.
Oh,
The boob job is what clicked in my brain to tell my gyno, who's actually my friend. I used to train her. So I was like in so much pain. And I had my leftover pain pills from that surgery that I didn't need for my surgery. So I was like, oh, man, my cramps are so bad, I'm dying and all this kind of stuff. So finally I was like, I'm just going to take Oxy, which is, post-op pain pills, which is a strong pain pill.
right.
And I took it, and it made my cramps tolerable. I could still feel them, but I could actually breathe and like walk around the house.
That's how bad we're talking.
That's how bad it was. And I'm like, okay, like a super addictive pain pill is what knocks out my period cramps. That's not okay. So like I went in for a normal pap smear or whatever. And I told Kristen, Dr. Caldo, and I said, hey, I never really told you this before, but like, this is what's happening. And I took a Oxycontin, that like oxycodone, um, and it knocked out my cramps, and I could still feel it. And her eyes went, like,
Right.
what? And I was like, yeah. And immediately she was like, you definitely have endometriosis. And I was like, what is that? And she started explaining it. Basically, it's what, endo is inside your uterus, and it usually sheds with the lining of your uterus. Well, endometriosis, it escapes and starts to attach to everything outside of your uterus. So she got me immediately in for a referral to Dr. Fox. And this is really important for girls to know. Never let a gynecologist do this surgery, because gynecologists are only certified to take care of the lady organs. And it's just kind of same concept as cancer. If it's on any other organ and you leave it there, it's just going to come back. So she referred me off to Dr. Fox, who is a fertility specialist. So I talked to him like I'm talking to you. This is the only kind of conversation. He's like, okay, yep, you definitely have endometriosis. When do we want to schedule your surgery? And I was like,
Are you, like, scared at this point, or are you kind of relieved that
Yeah.
you're getting answers?
I felt, but I'm such a skeptic. I'm like, "You've never seen me." Like, literally, it's like this. You've never touched me, you never checked my blood pressure, you don't know nothing. You're just gonna go, "Yep, let's go in there," you know? And I was like, "Okay." And so I was like, "Are we doing any pre-op, like, tests or anything?" He's like, "Well, really, there's no test for it." He
Wow.
just to go off his experience, and there's some tests to like make sure there's like no tumors, or anything like that, but there's really no test for it. So the next week I get a call and they're like, "Hey, we have a cancellation." And I was like, "What?" And they're like, "We can get you in a couple days." So like within 2 weeks of telling my gyno, I already had a surgery scheduled. So I go in, and we do all the pre-op stuff, basically just like ultrasound on the inside. Apparently my ovaries are pretty. That's what they told me. So
Aw, okay.
it was really funny. But I don't, so one thing they kept asking me, and there's one symptom for endometriosis is, basically like, sexual intercourse apparently is painful if you have endo. And they kept asking me that. And I thought that was interesting. And asked me again on my pre appointment. She asked me, she was like, "Is sexual intercourse painful?" And I said, "Well, how am I supposed to know? Like, if it's the only thing I've
Only thing.
ever known.
Wow, yeah.
So if that's my normal, so I don't know. Like, So and that was my like moment. Like,
Right.
I was like, "Oh, okay." So surgery comes around, and I still don't know if I have it, right? Because there's a chance you can go in there and it's not there. And so we go in on September 4th and have surgery. I end up having a, s- a little over, it's a stage 2 endometriosis. There's 4 stages. It's actually really interesting. They say it's like mild, moderate. It's like what was it? Mild, moderate, something else, and then extreme. Like the first 3 are like nothing, and then they're like extreme is stage 4. But anyways, I was like stage 2, a little bit above stage 2 because I did have a cyst on my ovary. But the endo ended up. This is how bad it was. Endo ended up on my bowel, my colon, my bladder, in the walls of my uterus, which Dr. Fox does a surgery where 5 years ago I would have had to have a hysterectomy at 32. So with this surgery, he cut the nerves to my uterus. So now I don't feel it. The endo's still in the walls, but I don't feel it. But if it was 5 years ago, I would have a full hysterectomy
Wow.
at 32. So that's kind of crazy to me. But the crazy thing is too, I was like, oh, okay, so my IBS, a lot of it's caused by the fact that endo was on my colon and on my bowel.
So they were able to, like, remove that, like, I'm picturing,
Hmm.
like, scraping kind of or whatever it was, so now they were
Yes.
fully able to get rid of everything that was on the outsides of your organs, but the stuff that's on the inside of your uterus is now just you can't technically feel it anymore, but it's still in there.
Yes, and
Okay.
it technically won't escape. That's the way he, told me. But that's why you want to go to a specialist about this, is because he could go in and take everything off of every single organ and really explore my abdomen. I have 4 incisions, one through my belly button, 2 on the left side, and one like basically kind of where the like C-section scars are, and then one on the top part of my abdomen and one in my belly button.
So is
Uh,
this something did they say is this something that has, like, grown and spread over time or okay,
so if I
okay,
would have been diagnosed at like 14,
right.
15, they probably would have never,
Wow.
gotten to the fact it was a cyst in my ovaries, gotten to the point that, my cramps got so bad. Like I remember in college, my teammates had to walk me to the health center because I blacked out. I like could not breathe because my cramps are so bad.
Jeez.
So it's insane to me that it's 1 out of 10 women that have it.
Yeah,
And
1 out of
it's
10. So I was hoping you were gonna say that. So if somebody out there is listening and they're like, "I've been struggling with a lot of pain for many years, like, around my cycle, it's probably not me." Well, 1 in 10 is a very high chance that it might be you too.
Yeah, and I've read a lot too that people that get misdiagnosed with PCOS too, just because of their body type.
Right.
Doctors will say, if like let's say you carry a little bit more body fat, they'll automatically go, well, you have PCOS, so we're going to treat PCOS, which I mean, PCOS is also a thing, but it can also be endometriosis.
It's not the same thing. Right.
Exactly. It's not the same thing. And that's another thing is like, doctors just, the fact that I never heard about it. And so I lived in pain from this level of pain from 13 to 31.
Right.
And that's insane to me that like no one mentioned it. Like, so no one ever told me that your cycle shouldn't keep you from your everyday life,
Right.
which is like, what? Like I had employers shame me, like I couldn't use a sick day because, oh, it's just a period.
Right.
You have to come into work. It's just a period. Every woman goes through that. So I'm like in my office trying not to drip sweat everywhere, trying not to vomit in my like little cubicle, because I had to come into work. I remember I was a server, those little sticky heating pads.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would stick them on and and serve tables and bartend because they wouldn't let me call out because it was like, oh, it's just a period. And
Right.
when I tell you that enraged me when men said that to me, I was like,
Yeah.
because to me, like how I've been described, like when they get kicked between the legs, how it feels. I'm like, that's how it feels. But like every 30 minutes,
Right.
like knockdown pain, can't breathe, want to vomit. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
do you realize that that's what I'm feeling? And you're telling me, oh, it's nothing. I'm like, I hate you.
Oh my god.
So yeah, so that's, I mean, so I had that in September and I had my cycles now, like went from a 12 to like a 2. Like I doesn't take my day away. Like I
So
still
like
have the normal
instant change.
instant change.
So when you talk about, you've had what, 2 cycles since then? 2 or
So,
3?
so I had in September. So yeah, 2 or 3.
Okay, so when you look at the water retention, weight gain, what are you looking at now?
Well, I used to gain 5 pounds the week before, and then probably 3 or 4 more during the cycle. I'll bloat up like 3 pounds, 4 or 5. The
Yeah,
normal,
that's normal.
what normal, not
Yes.
where I literally can't button my pants and
Oh my gosh.
I have the
Yes.
normal fatigue, the mood swings. I mean, those things still happen. But it is insane that like it almost makes me like very angry. I was relieved but angry.
Yeah.
It's like I didn't have to live like that. I mean, it affects your relationships. It affects like any boyfriend that I had prior. It's like they didn't get it. They probably dated girls before and they just like it's just a period.
Right.
And they're like literally dying. And I'm like, I have tattoos on my ribs and that I didn't even flinch. Like
Right.
it's not like
Right.
I have a weak pain tolerance.
Mhm.
And when I went to I finally went to my general physician and I was like, hey, by the way, I did have surgery. And so she goes and pulls it up and all the notes and she was like looking, why did you never tell me? And I was like,
Right.
it's like doctors literally like made me feel that like I was being weak by complaining or not handling it. Or they just try to push birth control on me.
Right.
And I won't do that. And also, like, apparently, I found out that most of my 20s, I couldn't get pregnant. And that's what a lot of women are dealing with when they can't get pregnant and they have severe pain, like I have. They
Yeah.
probably have endometriosis, which does affect fertility. I
Interesting.
don't, as you probably know, following me, I don't want kids. And me and my husband have talked about that. But now I told my husband, I was like, I'm fertile myrtle. So we're going to have to figure this out.
Now I actually can. I spent all those years thinking that I could, and now
Yeah.
I really can. uh,
Exactly.
so so you don't have to answer this if you're uncomfortable with it, but have you noticed a difference in sexual intercourse? Has that changed for you personally?
Yeah. So it was painful.
It was. Oh my gosh. Your
Yeah.
life has just like totally changed in all aspects now.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like, it was before it was like, there would be moments that I was like, super pain, but that was my
Right.
normal.
Well, yeah,
So
you
like when
just
they kept asking me that question, I was like, and I had to, it's like,
yeah, how do you
if
know?
you only know one thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've never even thought about that. So that's super interesting.
Yeah. So no, it's completely, it doesn't hurt at all anymore. There's no pain. Like these different pains I used to feel, nothing. I was like, ah, interesting.
That's crazy. So now that it's been taken care of, so what does it look like now for somebody that's already had surgery? Do they like go in and monitor it after a couple years, or how does that work?
So, if you go to a fertility specialist, like I did, you want to go back. He'll probably call you back every year just to check in on you, but it should not come back
So I guess
ever.
if you start to, for some reason, have those symptoms again, then they would go back in and see what's going on. But hopefully, none of that will come back like that.
Exactly. But if you go to just a gynecological surgeon,
Mhm.
they will see it on your like colon or but they aren't certified to go get it.
Right.
So they'll leave it. Yeah.
If
Oh,
you've had it for a
that's
long
my phone.
time, that's okay. If you've
That's
had
my
it for
phone.
a long time, you should go to somebody that can check out everything and deal with it.
Exactly. And the funny thing is not really funny, but a lot of women they'll jump to hysterectomy. They'll go, oh well, it's just you've had definitely if you already had two kids. If some reason it's two. If you
Hmm,
have two kids, they will allow you to get a hysterectomy without your husband's consent. I know.
interesting. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah. But if you have no kids, they're like, "Meh." But but the thing is, they won't say it's endometriosis. They'll just take your uterus. But if it's on your bowel or colon, or it's still there, the pain's going to still
Right.
go. And same thing for if you go through menopause and you had endo, you could stop having a cycle, but still go through pain, which
So
is
that's crazy. So thinking of your IBS now, are there foods that you've tried since then that are you like so nervous to even try those foods that set you off or what?
so I still can't have garlic, which is sad because I'm Italian and
Uh-huh.
everything's garlic and it's just sad. I can have a lot of cheeses. Like I can have cheese, like it's easy. I can Paul has increased my fats a great deal.
Paul is her
And
not her
yeah,
husband.
so I'm with Paul Rivera with Team Pro Physique. And so he increased my fats. And so this is the first time I've eaten this much fats in a long time and completely fine.
You've tried
Everything's
a few things.
I've tried different things, different splits. I used to have to keep my fats right at 20% so my hormones would stay balanced. But um, so now that I know that we're good, so like fats are processed better. I can have cheeses. Um, I can have whey protein. I've been doing bigger scoops of my pancakes so I can have whey again. There's a lot of things that I can have now that it literally would just kill me.
That
So yeah, it's like
that
it's just because all endo is just causing inflammation.
that's crazy. So for women listening, what are some obviously you said the pain, the monthly cycle pain. Is there any other symptoms that I don't know about as somebody that doesn't know about it that are red flags that you may need to go see a specialist?
So one of my friends, her only symptom was that she couldn't get pregnant, and she had stage 4. So she didn't have any pain, but she just could not get pregnant. So if you're having difficulties getting, pregnant and you don't know why, it could very much be endometriosis.
So did she
Um,
she have it taken care of and is
she had
she
taken, yeah, she got taken care of. She ended up having to because it was stage 4, so it was a lot of damage. So she ended up having to do IVF, but they have a pretty baby
okay.
girl.
Oh, they
Yes.
do?
Mhm. Yeah. So
Okay.
IVF worked the first try and all that
Wow.
stuff. Yeah. I didn't even know she was the same doctor as me. We were sitting there, I sold her a house and we were sitting there talking. And I was like, yeah, I have endo like you did. Because she's my hairstylist too. And she was like, who's your doctor? And I told her, she's like, that's my doctor. And
Wow.
so they have a gorgeous girl and they were trying for years. So that's another symptom that it doesn't always have to be painful. It could just be you know,
Infertility.
infertility, which, it's so funny to go to a fertility doctor and not want to have children.
Right. Right.
That was a weird conversation with me and him because he kept going like, are you sure? And he did. He's older. He's a great guy, but he's older. And he was like, did you speak to your husband? I was like,
We're on the same page.
it
Yes.
was his idea. So I'm like,
So
yeah.
infertility, severely painful menstrual cramps, maybe IBS related to an extreme. Like you said,
Hmm.
garlic still bothers you. Like that kind of stuff is normal IBS symptoms.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, I mean, that's basically what, I've picked up from it is it's basically, your cycle shouldn't keep you from your everyday life, for one. And you have to be your own advocate. If your doctor isn't listening to you and you say you don't want to take birth control and they still try to push it, you have to get a new doctor. You have to advocate for yourself. And if, and, just do your own research and make sure that you're talking, with people, just because they really do just try to push it away. And if your daughter's saying that she's in so much pain, you got to advocate for your children because, my mom didn't know any different. Both my grandmothers probably had it. I think my dad's mother had it. She had so many miscarriages and she talked me through all her pregnancies. And I was like, it's like, Nana, you probably had endometriosis because she had a couple miscarriages. And I was like,
Yeah,
you
and I
know,
did read before we started interviewing, I read that it is hereditary, so you are correct.
yeah. So I already told all my girl cousins on that side because I was like, no one told me because no one tells anybody. Like, no one really knew about it. So it's a big deal. And the whole thing started just because, bodybuilding, listen to my body led to IBS. And then, realizing that, taking oxycodone post, boob job pill to just get through my period. I was like, well, that's not normal.
That's not good. Yeah.
That's not it. So, but so that's why I didn't compete this year because I even told my coach, I said, no, definitely this is way too much trauma. At the end
Ye
of the day, getting that lean is traumatic on your body.
yes.
And surgery is traumatic on your body. So it's like basically like you have to let your body not just recover physically, but recover, you know, from the actual trauma that it is.
So
You know.
you're, like, ready to roll now. I cannot wait to watch you, officially prep next year, and I can't wait. You have a new coach, you have a new body, you have new boobs, like, I cannot wait to
I
see.
can't wait to see my boobs on a lean body. That's just going to be interesting. I love them, but like just see like the sparkly bikini actually filled out without any pillow stuffing in there. It's going to be like, yeah.
I cannot wait.
Yeah.
So you guys go follow Kayla. If you have any of these symptoms and you're like, maybe it's me, reach out to her because she's super easy to talk to. Once you start following her, you'll see that her page is just like an open book. So DM her if that's where you want to start. I know she would love to talk you through some things. And then, like she said, fight for yourself. Go find a doctor that's going to listen to you and see what's going on because it could potentially totally change your life. Kayla has
Completely.
quality of life that she hasn't had since she has ever known. So it's worth it to fight for yourself and advocate for yourself if something seems really off like that. So,
Exactly. And I'm going to send you something. It's called Nancy's Nook. It's a Facebook group and
oh,
Nancy's Nook has a bunch of all over the country, all over the world. She has certified basically referred certain surgeons in every area that she says that will cure endometriosis because
okay.
that's a big deal too, is that there's so many surgeons that say they can handle it, but they can't.
Okay. So
So
I'll put all that in the description of this
yeah.
podcast on this YouTube and you can find it over on our Instagram at Big Girl Talk Radio. Kayla, thank you. I loved having you on and I cannot wait to see what this year brings you in 2021. And I know the way life goes, I'll probably have you on again next year with something new and
Yes.
exciting that you've gone through again. So, yes, thank you so
Yes.
much for your time.